in Rangila, if Urmila's hip is swaying to a certain music, now her hip is a content. I can't create the hip. But what the camera does it will compose it in one very specific kind of composition in terms of the background, and correctly putting the music to that sway is what enhances the content of the hip.
It's not about reinventing the rules, it's about destroying them. Well, this is a quote from Ram Gopal Verma, which has been featured in the video blogs of Department. The blogs of Department on Bollywood Hungama, they have been getting superb response from all across the world. We have with us Mr. Verma once again. Pleasure having you back. And if you can explain this line, it's not about reinventing the rules, it's about destroying them. You like destroying in guns and all that stuff, huh?
I mean, see, but it's a strange way. I thought about it a lot. I thought it's sounding too rude, too arrogant, or I don't know what all. But I think it's the most apt description, because eventually what I call the rogue methodology. Now, what is a rogue? A rogue elephant is something which is away from the herd. A rogue gangster does not fall under the organization. Sure. So, in effect, the point over the years we have learned this is what cinema is. There's a tradition and we have to follow. There's a classical structure to it. There is a right look, left look, and you cannot cross the axis. Lots of such stuff are there. I'm just giving you a few examples, Now, in this, you completely, it's not about bending it, it's not about changing it, it's just destroying, just throwing it in the bin. That is how the department has been shot. And primarily the reason for that is it's not only cameras. I would say it's not, when somebody asks me is rogue technology, I said no, wrong. Technology is wrong. It is methodology. There is a fundamental difference there. A method of making a film is different from the technique of making a film. You're taking a point of view of somebody. When there's a DOP, he has a point of view. He will decide how the light is supposed to be there. But I don't have a problem of how the light is already there. For example, for this interview, you put these lights. Okay? And I'd like to believe what I am saying and what you are asking is interesting enough. It's not necessary that these lights are there. These lights are being put by your cameraman because that's how he wishes to see it. But I have no problem with how anybody wishes to see, which is what the rogue methodology is about.
But Mr. Bachchan doesn't like it too much. In fact, to start with, we've seen in the video blogs, he was like, "Ye kya ho raha hai?"
No, in the blog, he was actually, if you look at it, he was reacting. That was a very funny moment, in terms of Sanjay Dutt and Amitabh Bachchan are there in a confrontational scene, and the cameraman was running from face to face. So it looks ridiculous on set. Sure. But what it does on film, it creates a movement which you've never seen. So Mr. Bachchan was perturbed when he saw, suddenly he's speaking seriously to Sanjay Dutt, and to see this one tiny guy running helter-skelter all over the place, it looks incredibly funny. So he was just talking about that. So I don't think it's about it. And he also said in the blog, but yes, eventually we will do it. Know that, but it's unfair to actors, to subject them to this kind of, whatever.
Yeah, because you're saying that there are many cameras all around and you yourself don't know which final angle
absolutely.
You
that is the whole point. That's exactly the whole point of the rogue methodology. In the sense, like I have been, let's say, I want the frame to be like this. Why am I saying that? That's my ego which is saying that. I want to see it like this. But it's not necessary for doing from this angle or that angle, as long as what you're speaking and what your performance is being covered. It's not being so particular is not necessary. Okay, so the point is, when I don't know what is going to come, when the actor doesn't know which camera is looking at him from which direction or which angle or which range also, sure, which is what pretty much all actors know these days because there's a monitor on set. They know exactly what the camera is capturing. Sure. Whereas in department there's no monitor and you don't know where the cameras are most of the time. Okay, so suddenly it makes your performance internalized. You suddenly become the character. You're no longer performing to a certain specific perspective. Just clear one more thing, sure, about the camera size. A very well-known director asked me this question: how can you shoot a film with this kind of a small camera? I asked him that, did it ever occur to you why the original camera, what we normally shoot, is this big? Why not this big, or why not this big? You took it for granted that's the size of the camera without ever questioning for 30 years of your career why the camera is of that size. As long as you don't understand that, you're not going to understand this also. At the end of the day, the big camera, there is a spool, there is a motor which is running it, there's a magazine of a certain size and all kinds of things, right? Sure. In a digital technology, the information is recording on a dot. Now the human pupil, not even the eyeball, is recording a 180-degree image with full depth and with the way we see it. So theoretically it is possible to make a camera the size of an eyeball pupil, which is already there. It's not there, the spy cameras. Then you're only talking about the resolution. You're talking about the quality of the picture, where these cameras shoot with 2K, whereas the 35 shoots with 4K, but there's no screen which projects with a quality more than 2K. In fact, in India, most screens do it around 1K. So the point is, people tend to get fixed with what they think is right, and they never question why, first of all, that is right. And the whole technological advancement happens when people question why it should be this and why not this. The inventors of these cameras are the guys who question the logic of why something which has been accepted, not to take it for granted and to go beyond. So today, as a director, if these kind of makers can give me cameras which are like the GoPro, which is the size of a matchbox, and in outdoor photography, if you shoot it, you can't make out the difference between that image and a normal 35 image. So the Lumix camera which you're talking about, which is tied to Sanjay Dutt's hand, it gives a perspective which is not possible for a conventional camera. So I think, and any time a new technology comes, the top of the line people will be a problem, because they're in a comfort zone and they will resist it. Like, for example, department technology will be hated by the DOPs, because suddenly it makes them redundant in the course of the things, because there is no value for them. They can't be stars anymore in the context of how a film is made, So first time when I used a Steadicam in Shiva, every DOP said no, because they felt it won't focus, it won't compose it properly, you can't control the frame and all that. When Kamal Haasan used Avid for the first time in Kurudi Punal in Tamil, all the editors were up against it, saying you can't sync it, you can't do this, you can't do that. So any technology, there will be resistance. But it will stay. Eventually, any technology which comes is not going to go away. So I think it's anybody's job is to quickly to understand it and adapt it rather than to resist it.
Okay, but can you shoot like a full-blown romantic song on Swiss Alps with these cameras? Can you do that?
But then you have to understand is, the camera is a recording instrument. It will shoot whatever you keep in front of it. If you keep a beautiful woman, it will shoot that. You keep an ugly woman. You put an exotic Karan Johar set of beautifully decorated and all that, it will shoot that. If you put some dirty looking chawl the way I do, it will shoot that. The camera has got nothing to do with what's in front of it.
And you can also put it on cranes and all. You can, in fact.
You can put it anywhere. But you see, the crane and trolley I did not use in department at all, because it will just replicate the shots taken by the normal cameras, the conventional cameras. So I got a lot of rigs made which will accommodate these kind of movements, because the sky is the limit for what you can do with these cameras in terms of angles and movements. For instance, I took a shot where there's a tabletop, and the camera is traveling on the surface of the table between the pen stand and maybe some water bottle and all that. The shot was taken by putting the Lumix camera on a toy car, on top of a toy car, and the car became a trolley on the table. Now that's possible only because of the size. The Lumix camera is only
It was
this
like a
much.
remote control car.
No. You held it like that. The car, the two fingers, he held the car,
right,
and put the camera on top of that, and he was guiding the car like that to go towards the character.
Even on the carom board, I think there is a shot.
The carom board was basically, we fixed it to this striker, and it moved it, simulating the movement as if it's following the suggestion of the striker. So I'm saying, primarily you have to understand the size and the weight is of the paramount importance. It's almost like you're taking your eye out and just placing it wherever you want and moving it wherever you want, however you want to see it. That is what you have to understand, in the course of that. So now coming back to your question, can you shoot gloss? Gloss has nothing to do with the camera. It will record if you put gloss. It will, if the whatever light condition, sets and all that, that is what is happening in front of the camera. What this will give you is, it will give you more options for framing. You want to use lights, you use lights. That's your prerogative. You want to put big sets, you want to put some 10,000 costume drama junior artists, you put that. That's got nothing to do with the camera.
Mr. Verma, in one of the blogs you have said that film is all about storytelling and technique is about how you tell that story.
Yeah.
Now, there is a debate when it comes to art that form is more important or the content is more important. At the end of the day, if you look back at your own movies like a Rangila or a Satya or a Company or Sarkar for that matter, you've had some very powerful dialogues, you've had some very powerful characterizations, and that has been one of the reasons why your films have stood the test of time. So in that context, some would say that you're primarily just harping about the technology. As far as the content is concerned, are you totally sure of your content? Because ultimately it's the content that will connect.
Fair enough. See, I'm like you quoted me just now, the story is the primary point, okay? But in cinema, I feel it's very difficult to separate the both. The reason being, if it's just a story, you might as well narrate the story. Why are you making the film? The film is supposed to enhance film is an emotional experience. The story is, of course, creating that, those moments of emotion. It could be love, it could be romance, it could be violence, it could be comedy or fear or whatever. The tools of the medium, the application of them is what is creating that emotion at any time. Okay? Let me put it this way. If in Rangila, if Urmila's hip is swaying to a certain music, now her hip is the content. I can't create the hip. But what the camera does it will compose it in one very specific kind of composition in terms of the background, and correctly putting the music to that sway is what enhances the content of the hip. But if the hip is not right, all these are not going to make any difference. But if the zoom out is a little more, or something else doesn't work, it will reduce the impact for sure. So in other words, what I'm trying to say, they're hand in hand. You can't really separate one from the other. If Amitabh Bachchan's close-up in Sarkar, his performance, of course, without his voice and his performance, nothing can happen. But if in a specific angle, with a certain background, and to capture it with a certain light and shape, whatever else I've done. So I'm saying predominantly my cinema, I think it's going to be very difficult. Yes, I can understand people saying that the content was not good, but that's a separate aspect. I would like to say, if my technique was not there, the content would have looked even more poorer. If they blame me that I haven't concentrated enough on enough on content, I would say maybe they have reason to do that. They're right in doing that. But they can't blame me for concentrating on form, because if that is also not there, even this won't be there. So it's not like you're trying to put more effort here and less effort there. That doesn't happen, because a form comes only after the content is finished.